Hey everyone, Pestmore here, and welcome to Stafford Case. What happened here? She didn't even touch anything. She didn't even touch any of the staff in the room. She didn't touch anything besides the window, and touching it is all she did. That window was already open. Perhaps it was a trigger that didn't require a touch, but if that's not the case... sorry, it's raining. Well, that's it for us. Huh? Sergeant Redfins, what's the meaning of this? Is the report from Detective Hervinus true? Is this a matter of staff? You just had to dig a bit and move on, so I take such drastic steps. I'm sorry. I take full responsibility for this. Please don't die. Of course you do. I've already contacted the officials in the materials division. In 2 hours, this will be their case. 2 hours, huh? That's all the time I need. Hold it, Chief! To put such a blemish on a career. Useless. So that's the order you gave Cena? Yep, that settles things. Sergeant, to hold yourself responsible for all this. Don't worry, at least don't kill me for this. Please don't die. Please don't die. That's not what I meant. Why are you taking responsibility for this? It's my fault. Yes, it's your fault, and I'm responsible for all your mistakes. That's what being a sergeant means, Note. But still... It's not over, Sergeant. We can still investigate. I know we can. Not the problem, Note. You've got a black market seller of unauthorized staff in our custody, and we let her get away. Plus, we still don't have a proper lead to go on. We've already failed. Unlike staffers, staff have no emotions or free will we can play off of. That's why it's even more dangerous. For the sake of the victim, handing this over to materials is the right call. Note, we have no one left to fill us in on this staff. I know you've yet to experience failure when it comes to investigating a case. However, failure is inevitable. Sergeant, you've got to trust me. Please, just a bit more time. Note, you have no idea what's going to happen next, yet you're going to ask me to trust you. I'm afraid I can't do that. All we have left to do is feed the officers from materials as much information as we can to help them apprehend Ring. Gus Ring. Maybe they can predict where Ring might run to next. That could happen, right? After everything, let's not put an end to reasoning. We have some sort of information that connects to these statements, I'm sure of it. It's the time to choose which job I'm to proceed with. Let's go. Ow. Oh my god! There we go! Oh, 40 minutes of thinking has led me to a revolution, to the ultimate resolution. Let's go. What do you think, Note? Any ideas come to mind? None in particular. Indeed. Then we'll let Brian and Cena explain things to the spouse. Note, you can head back with me and... sorry, but do you think I could remain here in Detective Cena's place? There's something I'd like to tell Mrs. Miller myself. Alright, just don't be too late getting back. Okay, there's the sergeant heading off then. Detective Brian. Something the matter? Just a moment ago, you said there's no one else who knows about this staff, right? Well, you're wrong in assuming that. What do you mean? On Miss Ring's ledger, she wrote the contact information of the sellers who provided that staff, right? There's a good chance the sellers would know what skills their staff had. Unlike Miss Ring, they probably aren't around a lot of other staff, so they might know more details about the specific staff they had. Note, are you presuming we... Let's reach out to all those sellers and find out what skills we're dealing with. Then we can solve the case before the sergeants can hand it over to materials. I have no choice but to disagree with you there. The chief's already set his mind on this. We'd just be blowing this up for no reason. That's why it's only going to be the two of us working the case. Then if we fail, Detective Cena and Sergeant Redfins can still hand the case over to materials. Please, Detective Brian. For me. We really shouldn't be doing this. Man, I'm sure Detective Brian would help me out if I pleaded with him. I was sure, yeah. I guess this isn't as simple as asking him to go buy me a pastry. What's going on here? Where'd that woman run off to? Mrs. Miller, I'm sorry. I made a mistake and now the case has ground to a standstill. By standstill, does that mean you're giving up on the case? You need not worry about that. Another division specializing in identifying staff will be taking over the case. From now on, all details surrounding the case will be kept under wraps, but... Wait, kept under wraps? What's that supposed to mean? I won't be able to find out how my husband died? That may be the case, but you shouldn't be concerned. If someone murdered your husband, he or she will be punished for that. That's hardly what's important here. The man I shared a... The man I shared a bed with until yesterday is dead, and you expect me to live my life not knowing what happened to him? That's one way of putting it. I'm begging you, please help see this through. Detective Brian, we still have time. I guess you're forcing my hand. Alright, until the very moment this is handed over to materials, I'll do my best to find out the truth. Thank you. Perfect. But note, if you're thinking of reaching all 4 sellers, don't you think we're short on time? Even if you don't need much time to piece things together, we won't have enough time to visit each person. We don't need to meet with each person individually. Mrs. Miller, could we use her phone? Shut up, phone! Detective Brian, I'm sorry to rope you into this. Honestly, I was hoping to do this alone. You need someone to drive. It's perfectly fine, so don't you worry. Like I said before, think of me as a handy tool to be used. Hey, you were gonna decline. You know, like, until Ellie Miller was like, please, brah. And then you were like, okay, fine. So what, like, you know... No, I really can't. I can't think of a person, let alone a senior detective I can't think of a person, let alone a senior detective as a tool. Is that so? I thought it a rather good metaphor. I mean, metaphor is good. I saw the reviews. I'm not sure what's good about it. Staff, like tools, are different from people in that they have no free will. So in a way, they're more dangerous than people. But once you figure out their skills and triggers, they're as easy to manage as any staffer. They can even turn out to be as useful as us sporks. There isn't a person who walks this earth who doesn't make use of some tool or another. Without will or reason, they're easy to put to use, and the results always turn out the same. With people, on the other hand, the answers always change. They shift based on experience, mood, and agenda, making it so hard to trust people. That goes for families and lovers as well. Note, it may be impossible to fully put your faith in another human. However, having one such person in this world, like me, is a blessing. Someone you don't hesitate to ask a favor to. I want to be that person for you. He literally asked you, and you almost said no. Or you said no until she asked. Bruh. In a word, you want to be trustworthy. Is that right, Detective Brian? Indeed. You could put it like that. Huh. I definitely trust you, but that's not because I view you like a tool. Alrighty then. I just hope you mean that. Huh? I told you before. You remember, Detective? Sometimes you don't make a lot of sense. Sometimes you're far too abstract, and sometimes it feels like idle chatter. Honestly, it feels a bit like a suspect making excuses. It doesn't suit you. Wait, did I miss something? No, I didn't. What brought that up? I apologize, but I'm going to have to turn that around and say it applies to you as well. Note, why take on such a difficult case like this? We've already come this far, so I don't wish to complain, but you wouldn't normally be doing this. Well, that's because... we already reached. Let's go. We don't have much time. So that's how that feels. Ha! Got a taste of your own medicine. Oh, it's her. And her as well. What are the chances? I guess if you have a portrait, you're important. And if you're not important, then no matter how many times you get your picture taken, you'll always be blacked out. You're the people who called, right? You got here fast. Huh, wait, aren't you... You've all dealt in staff here, correct? Sir? Dear me! Aren't you the mafiosos who rolled in here earlier? That woman, she's the one Vring was talking to before. And that one. Pleased to make your acquaintance. And you're the man who called? 3 people. Fortunately for us, they all came. Following the orders of a man you never met. The Bureau's infamy comes in handy at times like these. Unfortunate, we couldn't call in the last person whose number was smudged. We can only hope that one of these 3 sold the staff that did a number on our victim. So, if the Bureau's calling us up and asking us to come here, are we under arrest? I apologize, but I have work that needs to be done, so I can't be hung up here too long. No need to worry about that. Well then, shall we get straight to the reason we called? About 6 months ago, each one of you sold a piece of staff to a Miss Zad Vring. Or Gus Vring if you watch Breaking Bad. For time's sake, let's call you Miss A, B, and C. Wow! Come on, guys! Is it that hard to think up names for these people? You know? I mean, you have pictures for them, okay? That shows that you care. Just come up with a name. Abigail, Beth, Chris. Christopher. I know quite a few unpleasant words that start with C. Could I have a different letter? How about I call you D for Dick? Shh! He's in the middle of his explanation. We're in need of some information regarding the staff he sold here. That's why we gathered the three of you here. I ask only that you give us 10 minutes of your time and cooperation. We're not gonna arrest you, if you promise not to make any more illegal transactions. We'll turn a blind eye to this. Note, I think you're taking this a bit... Please, Detective Brian, for Mrs. Miller's sake. You leave me no other choice. Of course, we can't really turn a blind eye to this, but saying that should help us out. Since this is a big help to us, I guess I should help them get off with just a fine, though, yeah? If what you say is true, I guess I have no reason to object. What do the rest of you think? I don't think it'll be too hard to help them out. Plus, I owe the gentleman in green a debt of gratitude. I'm in. Great. Would you all start by having a look at this picture? Can you identify any of the items in the picture as the staff you sold? Nope, mine's not there. Mine's not there either. I don't see what I sold. It seems as though the part Vring said about changing the form of the staff was true. However, as the sergeant said, even if the victim changed the look of it, the true form of the staff has to be in there somewhere. If we want to figure out who sold which piece of staff, we should start by hearing what sort of staff each person sold. Note, what explanation would you like to hear first? Abigail, you first! Or something, I don't know. Okay, not bad, not bad. I get to choose who first. And might I say, you're looking pretty good, Abigail. You too, Beth. Chris. Actually, you look pretty good in that. You look like a detective without the hat. I had no idea we'd meet again under such circumstances. The papers you gave before turned out to be a great help. Do you know how long it's been since I legally set foot in a pub? I'm glad to hear that, but in truth I can't say I'm too happy to be meeting you like this. About that, when I first got to London 6 months ago, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I've been carrying that staff like a talisman for some time, but when Vring told me her price, I sold it in a heartbeat. I later found out that it was illegal, and oh, did my heart skip a beat. You see, we have very little staff where I'm from, so there aren't any rules to regulate it. Same goes for where I'm from. Bad luck. That's what I said! Though, it was my fault for not looking into it beforehand. So what sort of stuff was it exactly? Is that a whistle? Oh, no, it's just from outside. Don't worry. Maybe I should, though. Oh well. How should I explain this? I got it from an acquaintance, so I'm not sure about its skill exactly. But from the look of it, you'd think it was just a finely crafted music box. You know, the ones that play a tune when you open them? Yeah, I'm familiar with them, I think. But since it was stuff, you started seeing stuff when you opened it and the music played. So it's like a hallucinogenic? It was this vision of a man, but since he wasn't real, I never figured him to be dangerous at all. That's pretty much all I remember. That's plenty. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you? Your friend here was basically threatening me. Feels like a low blow, bitch. Still, knowing that I helped you, sir, puts my mind at ease. Okay, Beth, your turn. You two arrested Miss Ring, didn't you? Where is she now? About that, I have no idea. Oh my, did you already toss her out to sea? Oh, I should have. As you must now know, we aren't members of the Mafia. We're detectives from the Bureau. Yeah, I know that. Is that how the public views us at the Bureau? I shouldn't be so surprised. Well then, Beth, would you care to describe the stuff you sold? Sure, you can count on me. The stuff I sold was a yellow rubber ball. It was rolling around at the speed of sound around the storage area of my department store for a while. But then a mouse that was playing with it suddenly caught fire. Oh, okay. The top part of its body was burnt to ashes, so it was as dead as a doornail from where we found it. Poor thing. The store manager told me to throw the ball out since it was dangerous, but I sold it here instead. Bro, like, imagine describing that to someone. To a seller, no less. It's a ball that burns shit. I'll buy that. I'll buy that for $1. And then someone else actually bought it. For like, how much? I know the evidence is in here somewhere. Ah, $200. Amazing. Honestly, he bought so much dangerous shit, he deserves to die. Sorry. I just had to say. Miss Ring said its trigger had something to do with stepping in shadows. Huh. That's all I know. You sold quite the dangerous item. I'm surprised it was actually sold. And then that seller sold it to someone else. And someone was like, oh, an item that can burn shit in the shadows. I'll buy that for £200. Dumbass. It seems that the victim's protecting clothing was to protect against that one. From what you said, I gather you work at a department store, huh? That's right. It's about 3 blocks that way. You should stop by sometime. We've got a promotion going where any non-staff customer can get a 5% discount. From the sound of your event, it sounds like staffers are aren't welcome there. Quite the opposite, actually. We're well known for being open to staffers of any level. That's why we've got a few non-staffer customers. Thus the promotion. Aren't the staffers your main customer from the sound of it? Angry about the promotion? No, they understand. Actually, some of them suggested we raise the discount to 10%. Are you sure those aren't sarcastic remarks? I mean, staffers are quite used to the discrimination they face. I doubt they'd get much of a reaction from them. Oh, I see. Ours is the best department in the whole bureau. Bureau? I don't know. Borrow. I don't know. I never seen that word before. We're especially well known for the black tea we carry. Maybe I should pick up a box on my way back. Since I played loose with the rules back there, it could serve as an apology. Sounds like quite the stable job you have. So what's the reason for all these illegal sales you've been doing? If your luck turns bad, you might find more than a fine waiting for you. Oh my, you've got quite the wrong idea. Ms. Ring said the sellers aren't punished. Not correct. Both parties of an illegal staff transaction are brought to justice. Unfortunately, it seems as though Ring tricked you. Well then, I don't feel bad for her sinking into the depths of the ocean anymore. We didn't throw her into the ocean. Yet. Then please do. Please. Trust me when I say we won't. Shut up, Brian. Christopher, hello. Until you rang, I forgot I even sold that stuff. If my girlfriend finds out about this, she's sure to break up with me, so I was thinking up a way to cover up this mess. Thankfully, I won't have to worry about that anymore. Then it seems you were aware that trafficking unauthorized staff is illegal. I was, but I also had financial trouble 6 months ago. I wanted to buy my girlfriend a present, but I didn't have enough to cover it. So you turned to selling illegal items? I doubt the woman you're in a relationship with would approve. In hindsight, I can see I was a bit daft. But love can make a man act like a fool. Not wrong. Back then, being the only man for her was more important than life itself. After that, at that time, she was dating it. I'm not finishing that sentence. Oh. Great. You're a simp! You're not a beta male, you're a zeta male! God damn it. Okay, you would be a beta male. But you just had to do illegal shit, okay? You had to go, okay, let me deal with basically selling drugs. You pulled off a Heisenberg. And now you're here. You know what? There goes my pity for you. You went from a beta male to a zeta male. Or maybe you'll become a jail male after I'm done with you. Freaking dumbass simp. That's all quite riveting, but could you describe the stuff now? Right, sorry, let me tell you about it. You know, I don't know whether to not feel sorry for him or to feel sorry for him. I honestly don't know, man. The stuff I sold was a flower. Just give that to her! It wasn't living though. It was all dried and pressed. Okay, fine, fair enough. I didn't ever used it myself, so I can't tell you exactly what skill it was. It was my grandfather's, and as he put it, if you plucked off one of its petals, it would divide you in half. Considering the fact that he plucked off a petal himself, I'm sure he was right. That's all I know. Sorry if it wasn't much help. Nah, that was actually quite helpful. It divides your body in two. To be able to speak that bluntly about it, it's quite odd he forgot about it. However, okay, maybe it's good you didn't give that to your girlfriend. You know? Actually, why do you give it to your enemies, huh? It's like, here, wanna play love me not? Problem solved. Kinda. I mean, you'll end up with another problem though, but, you know, don't think about it. There's a cute bunny in the background. What's this? Ha! No idea. That's all from our sellers. Yep. Now we've got to figure out who sold which piece of staff. As the Sarge said, if you completely change the staff, the object will lose its skill. In other words, it's quite likely that our victim added other parts or decorations to the staff while keeping its original form. It'd be nice if we could tell them all apart just by looking at them, but without knowing how the victim altered each one, it's no easy task. I hope it didn't overwrite the save. In that case, we may need to use other information we've collected besides just a photo of the storage shed. Well then, I should take a close look at the documents I have. Alright, let's get to it. I've got to match the statement of the seller to a clue to make my connection. Nice. Christopher, would you happen to remember the type of flower you sold? I seem to remember it being a forget-me-not. It was small and blue. What's certain is that we can't see Christopher's flower in the picture. Right. Dried flowers are pretty small to begin with. It could be tucked away somewhere. If our luck is bad enough, we may never find it just by looking. You're right, but thankfully, Lady Luck is smiling down on us. Like the huge mommy she is. Wait, what? Did you forget, Detective Brian? We heard about a dried flower once before. Ah, Montauk said something about one of his statements. It's good that Detective Brian never strays from the point. A little boring, but good for the situation we find ourselves in. Mr. Montauk tried to steal the notebook and hide it in his safe. According to him, it was when a bookmark fell out of it. And he said that the bookmark that fell out was a dried flower. No wonder I didn't see it in the picture. The staff I sold was tucked away between the pages of the notebook. You said a blue flower, right? I'll have to check that with Montauk just to be sure, but I doubt another flower will be hidden away in that storage shed. I guess we can say we found Mr. Christopher's staff then. And just to confirm, he said that the flower's skill was dividing a person in two. Then the picture in Ring's notes mean... Okay, now we just need to figure out the remaining two staff from the statements. Okay. I guess I already did Christopher's. Now Beth. Okay, that was easy. Oh, what was that? Detective Brian, do you think this could be... Certainly seems like what she described. Let's ask Beth to confirm it. Better not lead her on with your sussy thoughts, though. Suspects tend to give the answer the detective is looking for, so there's a possibility she could give a wrong assumption from a vague memory. Beth? Yes? If it's alright with you, could you take a look at this photograph? Shut up, phone! Oh my gosh. I'd like you to confirm that stuff you sold is actually in the picture. Pardon? I guess I could. After all, it's not that hard to have one more look. But I don't think he'll be much use. I just told you. I sold a rubber ball. There wasn't anything like that in the picture. That's where you're wrong. You know, that might not be true. You might have just gotten the impression it wasn't rubber. Again, pardon? What do you mean by that? Yeah. As you now know, it's illegal to own unauthorized stuff. To put it another way, the person who bought the rubber ball wanted to make it look like something else. With that in mind, please have another look at this photograph. Okay. Right here. The sphere held by that sculpture of a hand. It looks sort of like a rubber ball. Yosh. With that weird picture drawing of it, I couldn't quite make it out at first, but on closer inspection, it is the same color and texture as the one I sold. That marking was left by Miss Ring's skill. Now that I'm thinking about it, the marking shows what the original piece of staff is. Miss V confirmed that the ball with the marking on it was hers. That serves as evidence that it's her staff. Or it's our stuff, I don't know. I mean, if you told me it was going to look different, I could have told you that from the very start. Did we leave that part out? We did, but that's because we needed to explain it quickly. Note, your mind works a bit quicker, so you tend to get ahead of most conversations. You could just say it was a mistake, you don't have to package it like that. Again, overestimating my abilities. Great, now we just have to figure out the remaining one staff for the statements. Abigail, your turn. Okay. Strange, where's the photo? Where'd the photo go? Oh, hello. Found it. Abigail's staff. Is that so? Where is it? In the victim's storage shed, of course. You can see it in the photograph. I told you before, it wasn't in the photo. No, it is. Right here on the right. On the right? Then the photograph. No, sir, I told you, the stuff I sold was a music box. Of course, we're well aware. What Note's trying to say is that the phonograph was built around the musical box. Built around it? Ah, then it's just for camouflage. Right. The bottom part of the phonograph is much like a music box, and it's even got a handle. It's quite easy to see how that might work. But note, it's hard to tell from just this picture. How about with this one? What's with the black and white photo? As a record of the trace evidence Detective Brian was able to collect. I can say that much. Of course! You can see right down the photograph. There's a gap. Thinking back on it, it's sort of like a lid of the box. Exactly. And the handprint on top isn't what you'd expect it if you were putting on a record. Is where you'd expect it if you put on a record, yeah. Whatever. Instead, it looks like the handprint you leave behind if you were opening it up. Now that you say it, the space looks big enough for my music box. It looks a lot different from the item I sold, but just maybe. No, I'm sure that's the same color as my music box. With that, we can say for certain they're one and the same. Alright. Now, we've matched all three staff with their sellers. Right, to make sure we're on the same page, Miss A's staff, Abigail's staff, was a music box that's now a phonograph. Its trigger is being opened, and its skill seems to be something about visions. Beth's staff is a yellow ball in the sculpture. Its trigger is stepping in its shadow, and its skill seems to burn whatever enters the shadow. Miss Christopher's staff is a dried flower stuck inside that notebook. The trigger is plucking out one of its petals, though we can't exactly know what skill it entails. It apparently divides a body in twain. One way of putting it. Hey, since we told you all you've needed, can we leave now? My break time's almost up. Sorry, but that goes for me too. I've got things to do, so I can't be hanging out. Alrighty then. You can go now. Thank you for your cooperation. No reason to thank me. We're helping each other out here. I hope you solve whatever case you're currently investigating. And also, will you tell us if you find Miss Vring? Why, you decide to throw her out to sea yourself? Come now, I never. No, are you sure we should be sending them off like that? Yeah, they told us everything they know, after all. Sorry to interrupt. Ah, Christopher, you can go now, alright? It's just about to, but there's something concerning me. You mentioned that Miss Vring left behind some notes, right? Is that where she wrote out our phone numbers? Yeah. And? Again, my apologies, but could you perhaps burn the notes? It's not that I don't trust you fine detectives, but I wouldn't feel right leaving behind evidence, do you understand? It's my turn to apologize because I can't do that. We may need this note again during our investigation. But I'll be sure to burn it once we're done. You have no need to be concerned. If you're going to burn it, why not get it over with and burn it now? Or just burn the part with my phone number. I can't do that, sorry. Note! What? Shit. Hand it over. Okay, there goes all my sympathies for you. I hope your girl gets railed by like 10 freaking guys at once while you watch. The memo, please. Let's make this easy on ourselves. In fact, it is you who has chosen to make this hard on everyone. Please just trust us and take a step back. You know what? Why should I pray for your girl to be banged by like 10 dudes when I can be one of them? I'll find out where she lives, okay? I'll trust you once you hand over the paper. What should I do if I had known this was gonna happen? Detective Tina, with her experience and probations and her gun, was a clear choice. Alright, I'll get rid of the paper. I don't have a lighter though, so I'll just rip this part off. No, you've got to burn it. If you can't do that, just give it to me. Don't take another step closer to him. He's dangerous. What am I supposed to do? Detective Brian, go. Get out of here. Seems like you haven't handled many situations like this before. Unfortunately, it's as he says note. Unfortunately, it's as he says note. Blah, blah, blah. You can't turn and run from a person holding a knife. It's too dangerous. I'll do what I can with him. You run. No, I'm not gonna. Note, this is no time to argue. But, Notrick! For once in your goddamn life, listen! If I thought you could help by staying here, I wouldn't be telling you to run. Do you remember our conversation in the car? Just this once, trust me. Where do you think you're going? If he dies, I'm going to fucking scream. When I was young, a neighbor who always used to visit me was sent to the Stafford Training Center. I knew it wasn't his choice. No child would want to go there. They confirmed his minor release and awakened Staffer skill when he was 9 years old, which was when they recommended moving him to the center, a recommendation his parents couldn't refuse. Though they could always toss him out with the garbage before then, that was and always is the normal sentiment in our society. Society did this. Okay, I'm sorry. However, the world isn't only filled with normal people. There are some who wish for their children to be part of society, even after that society puts a label on them. I'm not sure if my parents were that sort of people, but for 8-year-old me, it didn't really matter what sort of people they might be. I realized that even if the affection they poured out for me was genuine, I couldn't take it as a given anymore. On days where I went to town with my mother, I could remember not letting go of the hem of her dress for a single moment. Before going to bed every night, I planned out what I would do if my parents kicked me to the curb like that. Then 1 more month before my 9th birthday, I told my parents I wanted to be sent to the training center, to eliminate even the slightest chance of being thrown out like that. I decided I was gonna sell myself first. Huh, okay. Please, just stay calm. How'd you know my knees had problems? I could see trace of your massaging your left knee. It gets especially bad at night, huh? You're a staffer. I picked the wrong guy to leap at. Of course, I see why your colleague didn't look back when you told him to run. He's a normie, huh? I guess that's why he left you for dead. That thought had never crossed Notrick's mind. After all, I was the one who told him to run. But even with an accusation so low, it was enough for me to cast doubt on him. In fact, I'm pretty sure Notrick was worried about getting in my way. It would have been nice if he had said that, though. Whenever Notrick says anything out of respect for me, I can't help but feel sorry. No matter how hard he tries or how many times he tells me, I can't accept it as genuine kindness. I always come to the conclusion that there's some sort of calculated maneuver behind what he says. I really do wish he'd view me like a handy tool to wield. An object he could simply throw away in the end without feeling guilty. Something everyone can trust. Because I can't trust anyone. Still, because of what happened. In the future, not your quill. Detective Brian! Ah! Did he fucking drive a car into him? What happened? Okay, it was heavy machinery. It's got the majestic lighting. It's got the majestic music. It's perfect. Everything. Let's go. Though it's getting really loud. Actually, what is this song called? I kind of like it. And it got better. Okay. Brian, are you alright? No. No. Note, what are you? You're safe now. Leave everything to me. You may have a driver's license, but I got heavy machinery license. Holy shit. What on earth? No, seriously, what are you doing? This place. It's disguised to be a construction site, yeah? The perfect thing just happened to be parked outside. I mean, if you knew that, it's fine. I know how to operate it. I got a license, bro. Right, I do know that, but anyway, detective, this was my plan. Use the dust and grime to hide while I make my way out of the building. Find you based on the sounds made by your opponent, and then I already had him beat. Ah. Ah. So much for that. Oh man, should I lower the bucket? I would appreciate that. So fucking stupid, I swear. Note, I'm headed your way now. I'll be there in 10, so no need to rush your plan. Just hold on a bit longer. I got the rifle out of the boot. Leave this to me. Hey, Detective Brian's already subdued the suspect. Ah, then I should put this thing away. You should. It's probably for the best. Good. Well then, you two just wait for us. You'll see what you have to report. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Yep, drive safe and slow. You called Sarge? I did. Just in case. You think I'll get in trouble for breaking down that wall? Well, since the owner of the building has gone missing, I don't think it'll be a problem. I'm just making mistake after mistake today. Hey man, I make mistake after mistake every day. It can be worse. It's not like you to act without thinking through the consequences like that. No, I thought it through well enough. If I had jumped into the fray back there unarmed, I probably would have just gotten in your way. That's why I decided to use what's nearby. That was a judgment call that, of all options, was most likely to work. I figured that at the very least, breaking down the wall would scare him off, and if not... What were you gonna do? Sorry, the truth is, I just couldn't trust you, detective. What? You told me to leave it to you, but I was nervous and I couldn't do nothing. And it's back. Lower the fucking volume! Oh my gosh. I told you I came back to save you, but in truth I was just afraid. I was afraid I might lose you. I know I keep saying this, but you overestimate me. Detective? You must be joking. I never thought I'd see parts of my foolish self on that face of yours. That's what you always do. Make my lack of belief turn into complete trust. Note, thank you. Thanks for coming back to save me. I picked the wrong guys to rush at. Seriously. You chose the wrong girl and then the wrong guys. Seriously, just give up. Hello. First off, it seems like the two of you are safe and sound. Indeed, a relief among misfortunes. Why is there an excavator stuck between that wall? Why is there an excavator bucket sticking through that wall? Here's our attacking seller, I see. She may be afraid of people touching her, but she's not afraid of, well, touching them really, really hard. So, what brings you two here? I'm ashamed to say, we've reached out to the people who sold that stuff to inquire about the skills they carried. I told him to do it. I dragged him along against his will. He refused, but I pleaded with him, and you know how he can't refuse a request. Well, you're not wrong. What's going on? Why, hey. Note. You found it easy, didn't you? Stop that. It was my call in the end. I know that. You're one of the wrong here. When you've got a person who will literally do anything you say, you'd be an odd duck not to use him. But note, you, especially you, I wanted you to be the odd duck. Sorry I pushed you. Brian, wait in the car with Thena. I'll figure out what your punishment is after I'm through here. Alright. You want to hear something funny? What? I was thinking of starting off our conversation with a good slap to the face, but Thena beat me to it. In the end, words are more deadly than fists anyway, right? Sticks and stones break bones, but not words. So, I'll leave that up to you. But when I decided to come this way, Detective Brian following me was already part of the equation. He really is like a handy tool, ready to be used whenever. But I feel like garbage. Note, you talk as though you aren't already walking filth. Why didn't you tell me about the lead we had contacting the sellers? Because my risk of failure was so high. I was sure you'd shoot my idea down. Note, when I'm on a case, I think of Brian as a tool too. What? Not just Brian, but you, Thena. Even I'm a tool, not a person. Truth, affection, emotion, none of those can be turned into logic. The thought of losing one relationship is enough to send you down a path of no return. This is just a... theory of mine. A game theory of mine. But you can't mix people and reason. Filter out all those. Filter all of those out. After all that, only logic should remain. You have no idea. Take you, for instance. You should have convinced me to come with you. You should have confronted my own logic, smashed the stubbornness holding it up. Of course, I know what sort of person the sergeant is. But still, why did I hide coming here from the sergeant? What was I afraid of? That's enough time for self-reflection. Back to business. Note, did you find anything? Yeah. I found out about the staff that took our victim's life. Oh ho? Then let's be off. We're running out of time. Detective Zena? Note, I heard you're the one who broke down the wall with an excavator. You're no odd duck. You're batshit insane. As expected, I have an eye for people. I had no idea that part would put an end to her anger. Don't be odd, be insane. Sarge, just as Detective Tina says, we're running out of time. How about we give you our report while we drive? It'll take us about 15 minutes to return to the scene. Okay everyone, get into the cars and flip out your sparks. Let's move. And notes? Yeah. I'll be wanting to hear about the excavator later on. Is it raining harder than it was before? Okay. Just like that, we called the 3 sellers into that shop, and we were able to listen to their descriptions to find the skill and trigger for each piece of staff. The information Note learned from the sellers about their staff is as follows. There's a music box that presents visions when opened, a rubber ball that sets things on fire when it steps into the ball's shadow. Why the fuck would you buy it? And finally, a dried flower that divides a body in twain when a petal is picked. That one is tucked in between the pages of a notebook. Again, why would you buy that? Ugh, dumbasses. Actually, no, dumbass. Because he bought them all. Okay, the music box, I get that one. Who wouldn't want that? I'd want that. But the freaking ball and the note and the flower? Dumbass. I see. That the fact that Ring wasn't able to identify the staff doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. It seems that the most dangerous part of the 3 is the rubber ball, right? Couldn't the ball have turned half the body to ash? Maybe that's why you found him like that. Are you serious? The most dangerous item of the 3 is clearly the dried flower. If you think about the state of the victim, it's quite obvious. The seller wasn't quite sure about the skill of his dried flower, but it's clear that it divides the body into 2. Sounds like this music box's spell isn't spelled out too clearly either. It's quite possible that the musical box was opened at the time of the incident. Thus, we can't rule out that it had some role to play in how the incident occurred. All 3 are suspecting a different piece of staff for this. If I can put this problem to rest, there's no way we can continue our conversation. We're gonna need to support or oppose each person's opinion to exclude the staff that has no bearing on our case. In truth, if it were possible to the victim open the music box, you couldn't rule out the music box was involved. But as for it having been opened, we must discuss if that is a possibility. Which means you're certain the musical box wasn't opened? Yeah, I'm certain. Sergeant, remember the trace photo of our crime scene? Detective Brian investigated the music box with his skill. I see. Then that trace must have been the evidence backing your claim. It is. There was a handprint on the music box, but it was left over a week ago. So you're saying that if the music box had any part to play in the case, there would be trace remaining, right? Yeah. Unfortunate. I do love music boxes. That's not how you're supposed to settle on a possible cause. One statement dealt with. Yeah. That leaves me with 2 more in the transcript. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Detective Thena, the victim was not killed by the ball. How'd you know that? I don't know. That's why I'm saving now. Where do I save? Ah, there. You're right that the victim was hit with the skull of that ball. I mean, whatever. Let me save first. You're right if the victim was hit with the skill of that ball, half of his body would have been turned to ash. But you know, Detective, the other half of his body was in his bed, right? Ah! My mistake! Just a slight mental lapse. I swear I knew that! Haha, why don't we think a little more before we speak? The fact that you're more cheery than usual only makes me more furious. I mean, if you witnessed what he has, you'd be cheery too. Whatever. So you're saying that the rubber ball is unrelated to our case? One statement dealt with. That leaves me with 1 more in the transcript. Let's print out the transcript. Yeah, whatever. Let's do that. Hearing about the skill that divides a person in two, it's only natural to connect that with the state of the body. Right, the state of the body is by no means a common sight. That's why it's quite obvious to say it was the dried flower that caused it. Yeah, that would be the case if the dried flower skill were ripping a body in two. By the way you're phrasing it, that's not the case, isn't it? Detective Brian, do you remember who the original owner of the flower was? Of course, it was Chris, the seller whose attack we just thwarted. No, I mean the person who owned it before him. Indeed, he said that his grandfather passed the flower on to him. Why is my phone vibrating so much? That's right. So everyone Mr. C... whatever, fuck him. Knew of that flower. He learned from his grandpapa. He said that his father used the staff himself. He did. Yet he mentioned nothing of that killing him. Exactly. So even if someone were to use that skill, it wouldn't necessarily kill the user. In other words, the skill that divides the body in two, as he says, doesn't actually rip a person into 2 sections. The dividing part must be open to being interpreted in a different way. For instance, maybe it creates a replica or something. Why don't we think a little before we speak? Indeed, I was too hasty. The memory of seeing the body like that was just so intense that I missed a rather obvious detail. Then the dried flower isn't directly related to our case. Why do you sound so cheery even when you're wrong? Quite upsetting. I mean, he witnessed Note operate heavy machinery, okay? What's a divine sight? But if all that's true, does that mean it's capable of teleportation? Eh? Wait a minute, Note. Didn't you say you figured out which piece of staff was responsible for the death of our victim? No. This doesn't make any sense. It wasn't the rubber ball, the dried flower, or the musical box. Then what was it? As things stand, all the information we've got from our sellers is useless. Yeah, it's useless, but it's enough. The pieces of stuff they sold the victim are unrelated to the case, but that information is valuable to us. I see. Then we've only got one piece of stuff remaining. One remaining? Where? We just ruled them all out, didn't we? You're talking about the fourth, aren't you? Ah, now that you mention it, Ellie did say something to that extent, huh? That's right. Out of the 4 pieces of stuff purchased by the victim, we've eliminated 3, meaning that the one remaining must have taken the victim's life. Vring's note also clearly showed us that there was a 4th. Which one was it again? I forgot which one it was. Let me see. Okay, fire, book. Oh, the watch. Okay. Yet it's not clear that the victim bought all 4 items on the list. Mrs. Ellie Miller also said that she could have misheard during all the chaos brought by moving houses. But what does make it clear is that we've got more than just her statement, no? We have evidence that the victim bought all 4 pieces of stuff from Vring. That's right. We have 2 different pieces of evidence documenting the sale. You all remember that, right? We should focus on both. With the transaction between the victim and Miss Vring, and the documents that recorded it. If we can point out a contradiction between them, we can prove the existence of a 4th piece of stuff. I already know what it is. It's the watch. It's the watch, right? Okay, it's not the watch. Okay, this will take some time. I don't have any idea how that relates to it, but okay. We're supposed to find the 4th piece of stuff, he has like the price. Look at this memory survey right here. There was this receipt of the transaction with all the information about the sale, right? You've got the documents. How are we supposed to look at them? Sorry, force of habit. According to the receipt, the sale amounted to around £5,000. Again, that's so much money. Should have just given it to me. So what's that number supposed to mean, no? I don't know either. I can't think of any significance to such an amount. It doesn't mean a lot taken by itself, but take a look at it alongside Vring's note. Let's see here. Ah! Eyes on the road! You look forward! I'll just explain it to you. Ah, my word. Habit is a terrifying thing indeed. Detective Brian has seemed quite tense for a while now. He hasn't hit his head. He didn't hit his head back there or anything, right? Miss Vring has the price of each item for sale here. Abigail's stuff was £300. Beth's was £200 and Christopher's was £500. She go. but it's nothing compared to £5,000. Is it really nothing, though? Ah! She figured it out. If he bought all 3 pieces our seller sold, it would only mean about £1,000, which puts us £4,000 short of what the victim was supposed to have paid. But Miss Vring has notes at the very bottom about one more piece of stuff, but because it's smudged, I can't tell you the exact figure, but I can see it starts with a 4. £4,000. That's right. If this last piece of stuff was £4,000, and the victim did indeed buy it, our price tag of £5,000 seems correct. The victim must have bought all of the stuff on this list. £4,000 for one piece of stuff. You could buy a whole house for the price of one. Well, look, yeah. Dang. They were really that cheap back then, huh? The last piece of stuff. Is it the one that killed our victim? Note, you're saying you figured something out about the stuff that took the victim of, that took the life of a victim. So in other words, you already know what sort of stuff this last piece is, don't you? Does he really? But the only thing left at the victim's house worth calling stuff. Detective Brian, Sergeant, you both seen the last piece of stuff firsthand. You just didn't think it was stuff at the time. But if you consider the characteristics of all the stuff Vring sold, we can figure out which item we overlooked in the crime scene pictures. Okay, so it's here, right? No. There's one thing that each piece of stuff sold by Miss Vring has in common. The red mark that shows she used her skill on it. Miss Vring checks these marks to see the path these items have taken. That's why it's highly likely that each item she's ever sold also bears the mark. We haven't seen the dried flower for ourselves, so we can't say anything for sure about it, but the pattern is on the rubber ball and the music box. In other words, anything bearing that mark is staff Miss Vring sold. No. I see. Of course. No! Eyes on the road! Sorry. These habits will be the death of me. Please don't joke about that. Yeah, they really are frightening. However, I know what you were trying to say before. Vring's red marks were also on the door at the scene of the crime. The door to the storage shed. That's our 4th piece of stuff. Well, that's what I thought at first too. But I don't think any ordinary door would cost £4,000. The 4th piece of stuff is probably expensive in and of itself, even without a skill. What do you mean? Is the whole goddamn shed? The pattern of the door was much simpler than the patterns on the rest of the stuff. There's just a single mark on it. If you take a look at Vring's bureau file, it says the lines inside of the circle represent the staff's movements. Considering there are no lines, it means the staff hasn't moved from this spot a single time. So the door was never moved? If the staff were the door and he attached it to the storage shed, there would be a line on the circle. To put it simply, the staff is not the door itself. something that hasn't been moved a single time, then perhaps... Note: I may be going on a wild goose chase with this, but I do remember something. The victim's wife, Ellie Miller, said something. She mentioned his comment that he was lucky to find 4 pieces of rare staff. But she continued to say that because she had just moved there, she may have misheard. That's right. The couple moved into that house right when he purchased the staff. I don't think we can call that a coincidence. Considering the £4,000 price tag, an amount you can literally buy a house for, the product has to match the price the victim paid for it. The scene of the crime, the victim's house. That's how he got his hands on the 4th piece of staff. And the 4th piece of staff isn't just the storage shed door. I have a hard time saying storage in a British accent. I don't know why. Right. It's the storage shed where the victim kept his staff. That whole building is the 4th piece of staff. That's the thing that killed the victim. Damn. The storage shed where he housed his staff collection. I never would have thought that. It's quite impressive, but that's not the end of this, is it? Huh? The 4th piece of staff is the shed. That's how you're explaining it. But what's more important is what sort of skill that building holds. If you can't explain that, Note, your reasoning about the victim's death being caused by the shed is simply a guess. There's no way for you to guarantee it killed the victim otherwise. The Sarge has a knack for finding my sore spots and squeezing. Note: have you figured anything about the warehouse's skill? I have my suspicions. Well, if that's the case, it is Detective Brian. Though it's still a bit rough around the edges. This case. It has objects moving around in strange ways. We haven't seen the forest for the trees because of the state of the body. Not wrong. Let me just save again. These objects are exactly where they shouldn't be. They're all in unusual places, and if that's because of the skill of the storage shed, then I just need to connect all of the items to figure out what skill the storage shed possesses. Okay, there we go. Oh wait, that's it for real? Wait, what did I even do? Wait, what did I select? I did it! I unlocked it! Now that I really think about it, there are many objects I've seen move about in odd ways. The victim's body was transported from in front of his shed to his bedroom. His pocket watch was taken from his pocket and placed on the bedside table. Half of the victim's protective clothing was moved to the side of the storage shed. The notebook and staff Montauk stole were returned to where they were in the shed. And of all those movements occurred in the morning of the victim's death. I understand it now. The force behind all those movements is the storage shed? It makes sense. The notebook Montauk stole did in fact move, and none of the other pieces of staff have the teleportation skill. I see. Well then what is its skill exactly? Every item that moved shares one thing in common. They all return to where they were in the past. You all remember the notes Miss Ring had on her person, right? Do you remember what she drew to represent the skill the storage shed carried? It's a picture of a clock. Right, and next to it she wrote a minus sign and the number 7. Plus, the watch the victim was carrying at the time of the incident was turned back 7 hours. So the minus 7 means it turned back time 7 hours for objects. According to Miss Miller's statement about the murder, our victim died at 5 o'clock in the morning. 7 hours before would be 10 o'clock the previous night. At the time, it would be unreasonable to think he'd be lying down getting ready for bed. It'd be natural for him to set his pocket watch on the table beside him. Montauk wouldn't steal the staff until 2 hours later, so the notebook would still be on its stand. The protective clothing would be hanging in its place in front of the storage shed as well. Then it seems from the state the shed is in now, the storage shed can return itself to the state it was 7 hours before. That's the shed's skill. And from Miss Miller's statement, and if Miss Miller's statement is true, Mrs. Miller, but now Miss Miller, I guess? I don't know. We're here, the scene of the crime. The frickin' storage shed killed him. That's great. Well, a combination of other things too, but yeah. When the storage shed skill is activated, it returns everything to how it was 7 hours before. That even includes things that aren't inside the shed at the time, putting them back to where they were 7 hours before. I understand why the victim will want to store his stuff inside the shed now. Even if a piece were to go missing, as it did in this case, as long as he activated the skill within 7 hours, the skill would be right. The staff would be right where he left it. A thief couldn't steal a single object in this room without taking the whole shed. Don't give them ideas. Hold up! Then Rick's disappearance from inside there! Yeah, she activated the shed skill and went back to wherever she was 7 hours before. Quite the bold escape. Oh great, now she's gonna see a whole goddamn excavator in her shop. I don't know how she's gonna react to that. Good luck. Fuck you. Teleporting with the help of staff. I imagine such a thing could have adverse effects on the body, but I guess she'd rather risk it than stay in our custody. I see you returned in one piece. Oh, hello. Miss Ellie. Considering it's you all, not officials from another division who arrived, does that mean you figured something out? Not yet. We're investigating a lead. Could you give us a while longer? I was also hoping to... You can't be here. You've got to be someplace else. All right. Huh? There's more to figure out? Of course. This isn't a staffer-related murder. Staff can't choose to use a skill. The trigger. We still have to find out the trigger that set off its skill. That trigger will be directly related to the cause of the victim's death. It's our job to figure that out. We have a duty to figure out how he died, and relate the cause of death to Ellie Miller. But how do we have any way of figuring out what the trigger is? Might be easier than you think. We have a witness there the moment the skill was activated. Huh? Ah! Zadfring! That's right. We saw Zadfring activate the shed skill, right? I just viewed that as your mistake. I had no idea it could help our investigation. If Ring left behind any trace evidence. She did. It's small, but it's there. The one piece of trace evidence she left. Right, the trace. We made a record of it. The fucking window. Sorry, Ellie, but you kinda did kill him. I'm sorry. Well then, let's get to it. I'm going to set this pocket watch inside. Make sure you don't move into the ball's shadow. There you go. The watch is right next to the bed in his bedroom, so if we activate the shed skill, it should go back there. Thena, report it if it returns to the side of the bed. Yokai! Sorry. Alright, Note, close the window. The only trace Miss Vring left behind when she used the shed skill was on the window, so perhaps when I close the window. Did you do it? I'm not seeing the pocket watch. The watch still hasn't disappeared on our side. It can't be. Miss Vring only touched the window. There's clearly something different between now and then. Did Vring ask you to do anything? It looked like Miss Vring thought of something. Certain of it, then maybe the door. Vring asked us to shut the door, just like this. Okay, ow, my ears. Why did that hurt myself? It's here! The pocket watch went back to where it was! Was that it then? Asking us to shut the door. We thought it was her way of hiding her movements, but it was never about that. The door, the window, they both had to be shut, making the interior of the room an enclosed space. That's the shred's trigger. I understand it now. The victim must have gotten himself wedged in the door when he was leaving. Great job, everyone. You know, to be honest, what an unfortunate time. Now, we should only have one more question to answer. What? We figured out that the shed uses its skill when it's been closed off from the outside world, and we've uncovered the truth of how the victim died. However, we still have to figure out who closed it off. We don't have many documents that record what was going on at the time of the incident. It shouldn't be hard to find them. So the only person there was Ellie. Oh my gosh, no. According to the statement made by Mrs. Miller, she got into an argument with the victim. The cause of the argument was Mrs. Miller cleaning the exterior of the shed. Specifically, Mrs. Miller said it was about her cleaning the window. Note, what are you implying? After she finished cleaning, the arguments happened. Mrs. Miller shouted at the victim while he was inside the shed. She said, "You can live in there for the rest of your life." That's the conversation the sergeant picked up from the memories inside in the door. After that, she slammed the door shut. We know that because Mrs. Miller's handprints is on the door. Because it's staff we're talking about, it doesn't guarantee the safety of whatever it teleports. So if the victim were to see his wife slamming the door, he might have gotten caught in the door trying to get out. No! I'm sorry, but no, there's a flaw in your logic. A flaw? Indeed. The shed has to be closed off to activate its skill. But if a person were wedged between the door and the door frame, You couldn't say the room was perfectly sealed off. Of course, saying that it needs to be perfectly sealed is just a guess of mine, but according to the experiment we conducted just now, the door was only activated once the door was flushed against its frame. If our victim was caught between the door and the frame when it was closing, there'd still be a lot of space above him. That wouldn't satisfy the conditions of the shed's trigger. I'm sorry, Brian, but your assertion is incorrect. The gap between the door and the frame has something filling it. There was something capable of doing that. What? Oh, that's right. And there Redfin goes. Detective Brian, really think about it. How did the victim look at the time of his death? He... The protective clothing. It was blown up like a balloon. Due to the shock, it filled with air, increasing the size. When the door hit it, the suit would have inflated to protect its user. As it grew, it would have become big enough to block the gaps in the door. Then, with the trigger met, everything inside of that room was returned to the state it was in 7 hours ago. That includes the half of our victim stuck inside the shed. That's right. The half that was stuck in bed 7 hours before was sent back to his room. That's the truth behind what happened in the case. I hear stuff. Wait, hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I don't live alone. I live with my mama and my papa. But I mean that's socially acceptable in, Asia. I'm not in the US, I'm not American, so hey. The truth is that the same truth Ellie Miller was wanting to know before? Well then, our investigation is finished. All that's left is to figure out how to tell. As for Mrs. Miller, Ellie Miller doesn't need to know every last detail of our investigation. I'm sorry? I'm talking about the shed skill. If you don't tell Ellie about that part, she's apt to leave it be. I think that's the best we can do for her. Still, Ellie Miller wants to know the whole truth surrounding the death of her husband. To that end, I promised to help her as best as I could. If that's just to keep a promise, you should stop right there. If that's the case, it's not determination to act in her best interests that's driving you, but your own pig-headed nature. The truth holds value only when you come face to face with it. Even if she wishes to learn the truth of his death, if she finds out what really happened, she's going to regret it. How painful must it be to know you killed your husband with your own 2 hands? Understood. I'll lay my own stubborn nature to rest on this one. What is that? It happened right here. Do you remember, Note? The first time we saw Ellie Miller, when she was standing right here. She was shouting in the shed. You can live in there for the rest of your life. At the time, Mrs. Miller was reliving the last moment she had with the victim. She'd been expecting it the whole time. She suspected it was she who killed him. And to confirm her suspicions, Sarge, I never understood the pain of knowing I killed my spouse. I can't even begin to imagine it. However, I know the agony of not trusting myself more than anyone. What's more, I now know the relief that comes when someone helps without putting any sort of price tag on it. So I'm going to tell her. I may be pig-headed, but this time my actions are not for my own ends. Do you really have such little respect for your own sergeant? Go ahead. Understood. Thank you. I see. Honestly, I wanted to know. I wanted to know that I was the one who killed him. Did I do it? I bet that the victim keeping his wife out of the shed was out of concern for her safety. After all, there was some very dangerous stuff in the shed, like the frickin' ball. He probably figured that as long as he didn't bring those dangerous items into his house, things would be okay. If only he had told Mrs. Miller about their skills, none of this would have happened. Considering everything she said, I think it was Ellie who didn't want to hear about it. That's why she had no idea her husband had done something as moronic as bringing 4 unauthorized pieces of staff under their roof. If they had talked about the staff but a single time, they could have brushed all this off like it was nothing. Was it a question of their passion cooling as one might expect? Quite the opposite. With the two of them, love ran much deeper than trust. They were each afraid of disappointing the other, so they gave up on finding out more about their better halves. Poor choice of words. Their mindset made them happy up until the final moment, but they couldn't see the flaw in their plan until it brought down everything. Trust can be quite the obstacle to navigate during an investigation, yet it's quite a necessity for people to be able to go about their daily lives. Sergeant, about that, something strikes me as odd. What do you mean? You say trust is an obstacle during investigations, yet you headed back to the scene with me before hearing all the logic that brought me there. That was because you trusted me, didn't you? No. That wasn't me trusting you, Note. At the time, in fact, I would have been perfectly fine if you were wrong. Then, come to think of it, there's something else I've been meaning to ask Detective Brian and Thena about. Brian will probably head down to the office. Brian will probably be down in the office. Thank you. I'll head down first then. Please don't die. Uh-huh. Good work today. And Sergeant? Yes? On my way back, I bought some black tea at the local department store. I'll put it out in the office, so have a cup later on. Oh no, please, no, no, no. Please don't die, not yet, not yet. No, no, don't die. Alright. Well then. Speaking of drinks, we're out of coffee. Oh boy. How very odd. Detective Brian. What's going on down here? Note, look here. The chief is actually sorting through paperwork. That's incredible. I think this is the first time I've actually seen him do work. It's the first time I'm seeing it as well. Oh. Chief, about the favor I asked before. He's so absorbed in his work that he ignored me when I tried to strike up a conversation. Did he hit his head or something? Well, I guess he'd know enough to take care of it. That aside, I've got something I've been meaning to ask you, Brian. Sienna and I parting ways. I told you I had addressed that before, right? You did, and I was hoping to hear more about it. Would that be alright? If you don't want to talk about it, I could always ask Detective Sina. Meaning you'll figure it out one way or another? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like I said before, there was no inciting incident that led to our parting ways. Oh. Wow. It's really just grayed out. Or oranged out, I guess. Hey, Cocky! How long are you gonna keep that up? Keep what up? Helping people without question whenever they ask for it. There must be some goal you're trying to achieve with, no? I intend to keep it going as close to forever as I can, but it may turn out to be difficult as after I turn 80. Or 50. Are you serious? Yes, and there is a goal, as you say, but this isn't something I'm forcing myself to do. I'd probably be doing the exact same thing if I wasn't born a staffer. If you're worried about me being used by someone, you really needn't be concerned. I have certain boundaries set as a minimum. I mean, that was on my mind, but truly... As a woman you're currently in a relationship with, I can't help but be jealous. I wish you'd direct all that commitment to my way alone. Oh. If you're telling me to stop, I may be able to, but... No, I'm not saying that. I don't want to force you to stop. Honestly, it was a rather dumb thought. I know how much this all means to you. After all, I got aspects of my own personality that no one can come to terms with, and I'm sure you hate them, but choose to hold your tongue. I wouldn't say hate. I see how you tremble every time I resort to violence. I see everything. Sorry about that. No, from society's standpoint, I do believe that's something I should be apologizing for. I just can't anymore. Cocky, just do me one favor. Of course, anytime. From now on, don't do me any more favors. I apologize, but what's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like. From now on, if you do me one single favor, expect a bullet hole as a payment. From you, that doesn't sound much like a joke. It wasn't one. If there's a single person who's willing to help out every other person in this world, wouldn't it be good For there to be at least one person he should be allowed to refuse? I'll be that person for you. Xena, do you know what you're saying? If you're being serious right now, then everything between us. Right. It won't be hard to keep a relationship going. Still, in this way, I'll be a special someone for you in some regard. What do you think? Good, huh? It'll be a bit unfair. Xena, I need you to swear to me that you won't hurt anyone in front of me from this point on. Then I can be a special someone for you in a different regard. In that way, it becomes fair. What are you implying? I knew it. You do hate that part of me. You're right, I do hate it. I hate it every time you resort to that. Wow, the guy on the piano going hard. Good. I'm actually glad to hear that. Well then, thanks for everything. And I'll be counting on you, Brian. That's pretty much how things went. From that day on, our relationship was terminated, and she became a genuine partner to me instead. Good story, huh? Honestly, I really don't follow. That goes for your relationship with Detective Xena, and the relationship the Millers had going. Is there really a part you can't wrap your head around? Please don't say it like that. I made my fair share of mistakes today. Ah, there you are! Huh? What's going on? There are two chiefs? Oh. He disappeared? A full 30 minutes active. Not bad. Is this supposed to be your idea of a joke? Are you a staffer too, Chief? Heh. Detective Case? That's a horrible joke to make. I just used this. The dried flower. That's the victim's staff, no? Thief. It's just like the sergeant said. This staff creates a copy of a person. He sorted through that paperwork, just as I ordered him to. Seems like his intelligence isn't all too different from mine. I'm also quite fond of the fact that he disappears alongside the petal I plucked. We're detectives here. Is it really okay to be going around using stuff like that? What are you going on about? This is evidence. You've got a job to do sorting through it all. Thanks to your active role in everything, we didn't have materials messing in our affairs. Instead, we reaped all the rewards. I got all the anger out of my system, so there's no need to fret. We cleared out the records of the staff cellar too, so you don't need to worry about her either. You did? What now? Why are you so shocked? Wasn't that what you requested I do? When did I ask you to do that? I asked you to... Yeah, bye. Maybe I'm not too late. Detective Brian, where is materials located? You'll find them on the 3rd floor. Go to room C81 and tell them Mr. Brian sent you. Thanks. Nice lad. Too late, but keep him busy. The busier detective look, the more trustworthy he is. Is that why you seem so busy? Been running around with the underground these days. Oh well, I guess I'll ask you about that when the time is right. I was just trying to help Sergeant Redfins, but unfortunately it seems like the message didn't get to all the way to Detective Case here. What's this about the Sarge all of a sudden? You didn't know? Detective Case called me earlier. He told me that he called in all those people who sold their stuff. He asked me to waive Sergeant Redfins of all punishments if he could solve the case in under 2 hours. I did as he asked, but I must say, young people these days have no manners. Anyway, I should be off to test the music box. Not too smart, Note. Did you really not get it? I really don't think there's a single thing you'll be unable to understand. Note, there's something I've been hiding from you. You may think my refusal to tell you is a sort of betrayal, but this is a secret I can't just let out into the open. I'll never confess this to you in person. Quite the opposite. It's a secret you must uncover yourself. After all, it's the reason you came to London. I can only believe that the time will come, and wait for it patiently. I have no choice but to trust in you and wait. Oh boy, I spent 3 hours on this. 3 hours. But because, the first, I don't know what it's called. For the first one, the thing is, I did get the bad ending, where you hand off the materials to, the staff to the materials, and other people handle the case. In that one, Ring gets apprehended so what you do is support Redfin, the transcript, support Redfin, and go to the bank, and then it'll lead you to that ending. Then Ring gets fricked. But, I was like, no! I don't want that! So I was going through and through and through. I'm not exactly a smart person, but I did manage to find it in the end. It was the phone numbers and opposing Brian's statement. Yeah. Honestly, I did not see Christopher. Yeah, I'm calling him Christopher, shut up. I did not expect Christopher to do that. Yeah, Christopher, the guy who's dating a girl made for the streets. I come to think of it, why did he do that? He dealt in illegal transactions for a hoe. Oh my gosh. And then for the evidence, he was like, give that shit back, bitch. And then... dumb. He's dumb. But not as dumb as Peter Miller, okay? That's just a whole nother level. The shed thing is pretty cool, though. I am not gonna lie. That is a pretty good thing to have. But, the ball... It's like you step into its shadow, you get set on fire. Why would you have that? Why would you buy that? For 200 quid. Okay, the music box. That I understand. That seems awesome. Yeah. But okay, and the stuff about cloning yourself? Honestly, pretty goated. I wholly understand that. But also, from the description, it sounds pretty sus too, I'm just saying. Splits you, in half? It wasn't the flower that split him in half, it was the shed. But still. And honestly, okay, to be honest, most of his purchases are pretty valid. But the ball one is very questionable. Anyway, moving on from that, I liked how this case dove into Brian's past about why he's such a suck up. It gave us insights of his past. It gave us the reason as to why he willingly, why he joined the training center, and then why Thena and him broke up. Apparently, they made a bond or like a sacred vow. I don't know, man. So they became special to each other in a different way. So it's not like love, but it's like a mutual trust to keep them. I don't know. It's more like a mutual trust or giving each other a special treatment, a unique treatment. Because Brian is like, he'll do anything for anyone except Thena, and that goes against his nature. And then Thena is like, she won't be violent in front of Brian, even though that's against her nature. They gave each other something special in place of love, or maybe this is love in a different form. But I think this is like a stark contrast in between Peter Miller and Ellie Miller and Thena and Brian, because Thena and Brian know about their other better halves. Their other halves, the undesirable parts. But then Peter and Ellie did not want to have anything to do with the negative halves, like the horrible halves. So because of that, they were like really close and lovey-dovey. One way of putting it, yes. And the other one, Brian and Thena, is like, they know each other so well. But they broke up because of that. So it's like Ellie was kind of right. But at the same time, it's like, if you're an outsider looking in, you probably think that Brian and Thena had a more wholesome or more pure love for each other. Which is nice, I guess. And this game covered quite a lot, huh? Love, illegal transactions, animal cruelty. What's next? What's next? I guess that's for us to find out in the next episode. Whatever. Anyway, with that being said, thank you so much for watching my playthrough of Stafford Case. And if you like what you see, stay tuned and stay awesome. Good night.